Shabbat Shalom. Kahalo Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem HaKadosh. Double honors to the elder apostles of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us this truth. Shabbat Shalom and salutations to all the brothers that pushing the word of truth and in sincerity. I'm the brother Yashuan, back with the WW3 Daily Update. And thank you for the thumbs down. Your time is short. Anyway, this is Joel 2, and start at 2. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, there hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. A fire. This fire is talking about nuclear missiles. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. That's nuclear fire. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them, after they strike, a desolate wilderness. Yea, nothing shall escape them. Escape what? These nuclear missiles. ICBMs and nuclear missiles. All right? The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their face people shall be much pained. All faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. They shall march every one on his way, and they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one thrust another. What that means is in that day, those missile defense systems, those interceptors, they're not going to stop the initial launch. Okay, those are not going to work. The nukes are going to succeed, every one of them. They shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. So the missile defense systems are not going to work. Okay? The intercepting missiles are not going to shoot the nukes out of the sky. They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them. All right, a great earthquake. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Okay, we'll stop it right there. Okay, now we'll watch this. All right, this is Deep Journal, November 19th, which I believe is today. Yes, Friday the 19th, 2021. Breaking, U.S. Operation Iran begins. Israeli Mossad caught Iran's what? Nuclear bomb. All right, so let's watch this.
3 years have passed since Iran's withdrawal from the nuclear agreements, and Iran, which was restricted with the 2015 nuclear agreement, has increased its uranium rate by more than 20% since 2018 and continues to work on nuclear weapons production rapidly. As it can be understood from the latest Mossad reports, Iran, which has completed 80% of its nuclear weapons with increased uranium content, has recently approached a nuclear agreement with the pressures of the USA. But Iran may use this nuclear deal promise to buy time to complete its nuclear weapon. Iran, which withdrew from the nuclear agreements with the sanctions of former President Donald Trump, has made a huge nuclear investment with feverish work since that day. According to the information obtained from the spy reports, Iran, which has established nuclear research centers in many different places, has taken itself much further in the field of nuclear weapons in 3 years. In fact, in the latest reports published by the CIA a few months ago, it was emphasized that Iran could have a nuclear weapon within 6 months. Under the old nuclear agreement, Iran was forbidden to enrich uranium more than 3.67%. However, as of February 2021, Iran has enriched 60% of uranium.
If you could can't
Slovakia. Gotta bring these commercials in to destroy. All right, here we go.
Uranium. The over 90% uranium enrichment needed to develop a nuclear weapon is now possible, and Iran could complete it very soon. Upon this possibility, President Biden developed an urgent action plan and began to be more sensitive about sitting at the table with Iran. The pressure of Israel is also very important here, because Israel has been putting pressure on the countries and allies of the world to put an end to Iran's nuclear work for a long time. When the preconditions of the agreement to be made were determined, experts announced that this nuclear agreement was much more flexible than the previous one. But in any case, monitoring and slowing down Iran's nuclear weapons work will buy Israel time until at least 2031. However, it is not clear what will happen in this process and where the negotiations will lead. And Iran will have very extreme demands during the negotiations, which could mean that Iran has almost completed a nuclear weapon. After Iran's abstention in the recent period, harsh warnings against Iran started to come from NATO and the USA for the first time. Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, stated that if Iran does not return to the nuclear agreements soon, much more serious options will come to the table. In the continuation of his statements, Blinken also announced that Plan B is being carried out in the meetings he held with his counterparts in Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Experts say that Plan B is already the attacks against Iran and the militants it supports in the Middle East in recent days. In addition, claims that the U.S. supported Israel's latest airstrikes against Iranian-backed militants may be evidence of the beginning of Plan B. However, if these attacks are not enough to bring Iran to the table, it is thought that Israel will launch an all-out attack. However, a chaos-fed country like Iran could create more conflicts with Hamas, Hezbollah and Houthi militants to achieve nuclear weapons and delay negotiations, pushing Israel into a new civil war, just as it did in May. If the U.S. adopts a passive attitude as it did in May, it will have given Iran time to get what it wants. A new nuclear deal that may emerge between Iran and the world powers in the coming months will likely be worse than the 2015 deal, former IDF intelligence chief Aharon Zevi Farkash told on Thursday. Speaking after Wednesday night's announcement that nuclear talks between the Islamic Republic and the P5+1 will restart in Vienna on November 29, Zevi Farkash asserted that in spite of his pessimism, even such an inferior deal is better than no deal. The former IDF intelligence chief said that even a bad deal would give Israel a chance to delay Tehran's nuclear threat until at least 2031, while at the moment, Iran is close to the nuclear threshold or already on the nuclear threshold. He said he expected a new deal within a period of months, but hoped that the Biden administration and the European via France, Germany and the UK would press for a longer and stronger add-on to the deal so that nuclear limits could be extended even beyond 2031.
All right, so they keep speaking of 2031. This thing is going to happen a lot sooner than that. And this is propaganda. Does Iran already have nukes? Of course they do. Of course they do. All right? All of this is propaganda. And to destroy Babylon the Great, this system, doesn't even require for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. All right? China has several nukes. Russia has more nukes than Babylon the Great itself. Okay? The nukes are already in place. You don't have to wait for them, for Iran to have one, for mutually assured destruction to jump off. All right? Nevertheless, okay, this is how World War III is going to end, with the nukes, all right, that are already in place. How easy would it be for Russia to say, here, Iran, take these? Or for China, who is their ally, here, Iran, take these. Well, what does the scripture say? How is it going to end? All right? How's this thing going to end according to the scriptures? Let's to Revelation 12. It's a lucky 11. First the extraction, and then the fire. All right. Start at 11. It's Revelation 11 and 11. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God, or the Most High, entered into them. Who is them? Okay. Who is them? The two witnesses, who was Israel. All right. The nation of Israel. Meaning they found out who they were. All right. Oh, we're not Africans? Oh, we're not Puerto Ricans? Oh, we're not Cubans? We're not Mexicans? We're not Native Americans? We are the nation of Israel, God's chosen, right? And they stood upon their feet. Oh, wow. We're God's chosen people. Hey, we're somebody. God is dealing with us. And great fear fell upon them which saw them. Oh, you're not the Israelites. You're not God's chosen. You're just a monkey swinging from a tree. And they, who's they? The Israelites heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud. And their enemies, you're just monkeys. And their enemies beheld them. Our enemies that have that great fear. All right. So there's the rescue. That's the extraction. They ascended up to heaven. And extraction from who? Who's going to be saved in that? This is what it means to be saved. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud. And their enemies beheld them. Who's going to be saved? I'm saved. I gave my life to Jesus and I'm saved. No, you're not. You're not saved until you ascend up to heaven in a cloud. And guess what? Got to know who your enemies are. You know who your enemies are? Who are the enemies of Israel? Go to Psalm, the 83rd chapter, and read them by name. Okay? Find out where you fall in that list of people. Now, here's the destruction. Here are the missiles all hitting at the same time. And the same hour, same what hour? Same hour that the saving took place. In the same hour was there a great earthquake. Shall cause the earth to quake, remember that? And the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000. 7 means completion, meaning everybody that wasn't beamed up into the clouds, right, died. And the remnant were affrighted. Who's the remnant? They that ascended up to heaven. The remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. What is this? They ascended up to heaven in a cloud. Didn't Elijah ascend up to heaven in a cloud? Didn't the one you ignorantly called Jesus Christ rise up to heaven in a cloud? And he's coming back in the clouds. Psalm 104 and 1. Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who covers thyself with light as with a garment, who stretcheth out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. What chariot? Swing low, sweet chariot. All right. So with that, we hope that the elect are edified. With that, we're going to say Shabbat Shalom.